it was acquired by a guy named Warden, or it was Colonel Warden. But the Hotel Warden was a former landmark in Newark on this site. It was sort of, and I remember it, it was kind of closed, it was torn down in the 60s. The last thing the Warden Hotel did, it served as the host for the Newark City government when they tore the old City Hall down to build the new City Hall. They had municipal offices over here on this site. But it had closed as a hotel. It was an old building that was pretty well worn out by that time. It dated back to just post-Civil War. But in its day, in the early part of the 20th century, the Hotel Warden on this site was the DoubleTree of the day. That's where everybody came to Newark. You know, if you were staying there were several hotels. There was one over at the Arcade. There was the Taft Hotel down here. There was a hotel over in North Park Place. There was the Warden Hotel here. And everybody that came to town, they came usually, you know, back in the day, they came by horse and carriage, or they came on the railroads to the Penn Station or the old B&O Railroad station over here. And we actually have pictures posted as you come around. You look at the pictures on the walls, and also in the window in there, you'll see pictures of actually people at the Warden Hotel in a horse and buggy arriving here from the train station with their luggage and trunks, and this is where they stayed.
Did you take those pictures?
Yeah, I did. There's actually one picture from the courthouse, which is a great picture that Crystal likes. She's been my co-conspirator in this project. Turn your placemats over. Turn your placemats over. Crystal created this when I kind of challenged her to share with you the history of this site. And with the Warden Hotel, I found this picture over at the Historical Society. This is what the Warden Hotel looked like in the day around the turn of the century. See the people in the street? You see all the horse-drawn stuff. And if you look around the pictures from the left top down, that's the old lobby of the Warden Hotel. You can see the little TV in the corner there. Picture below it is a turn of the century picture of the Warden. There's a little note there from the menu. That's the crest. The Warden Hotel had a crest, and that's the crest. And the Rotary Club met here. All the people came to drink and socialize and have dinner here. This was the 1922 of the day. Air-conditioned fantasy lounge. I love that. At one point when they redid the hotel, they added air conditioning to the restaurant and stuff, and it was the big deal. Now air-conditioned, the Warden Hotel. You can see the crest at the bottom. Coming on the other side, you can see air-conditioned, the Golden Arrow Dining Room. And here's actually an insert from the Golden Arrow Dining Room. This was when you would come to the Warden Hotel, you get the menu, and you were a visitor to Newark, it would show you things to see and do around Newark. The Pure Oil Company, Mound Builders Country Club, the State Park, the Welsh Hills, the Drummer Boy of Shiloh, the Alligator Mound, the old E.T. Rugg Company, Denison University. This was probably in the 1940s, and they would, as you were visiting the Warden Hotel and having dinner, if you were a visitor here, this has just been tourism of the day. They would show you things you could see and do around that. Inscription Rock down at Black Ann. I can pass that around, you can see it. I'll give you just a quick real history on it, very quick. The history dates back to 1802. The building, the original hotel here was called Black's Tavern, 1802. Throughout the years, this site changed ownership many times and hosted numerous boarding houses, including the Houston Tavern, the Green Tavern, Buckingham House, which we've seen pictures of. This was called Buckingham House, and the McBride House. But it became the Hotel Warden in 1887 when the property was taken over by Frank Warden. He and his wife actually lived here and had a penthouse in the Warden Hotel, had living rooms, and had luxurious living accommodations right in the hotel. They lived here. The chef at the time was from Granville, came over here in a horse and buggy every day to cook dinners at the Warden Hotel for people. The hotel remained in the Warden family's care until 1939, so that's pre-World War II, when it was sold to a local lady, Mrs. Malcolm Baker, and her husband. Eventually, competition from more modern hotels like the Howard Johnsons, the Holiday Inns, all the things that came in the 50s and 60s, and the fact this was an old, turn of the century building eventually dated it. There were 70 rooms in the hotel, they didn't all have restrooms in every room. Some of them were just sleeping rooms, and you had to use common bathrooms in the building. That was the thing. The hotel was demolished on this site 1966, and the thing that followed almost immediately after that, a few years after it, was when David Thomas was looking for locations for his new Wendy's concept out of Columbus. The first Wendy's was in Columbus on Broad Street. This was the 5th Wendy's built in the country. And he actually acquired that site on the corner. And then the county had outgrown its offices in the courthouse. They needed an administration building, and they dickered for this site to be the new county administration building. There is one local legend that goes with the Warden, and then I'll let it go. It's the legend of the Mason's Trowel. A local legend associated with it was the legend of the Mason's Trowel. It was believed that while working on expanding this building, they put a 4th floor on this building when it was a hotel, a bricklayer fell from the hotel and died on the street. His trowel, which could be seen in the cement where he was working, stayed on the north wall of the hotel, and it was left there to memorialize his death. And when the Warden Hotel was demolished, his trowel was saved. They took it out of the side of the building. It was on the north side of the building, facing that way.
Where's that trowel today?
Who knows?
Oh.
Now, I got one more show and tell to show you. Okay, so look up at the upper right-hand corner where it says the air-conditioned Tally-Ho Bar. Okay, that was the place, that was like the 1922. That was the place to go have cocktails and drinks. That was the Tally-Ho. There was a picture in the Tally-Ho Bar of an English carriage being pulled by horses with a guy in a top hat, and that was the Tally-Ho. No one knows what happened to the picture when they sold the place, but people that came to drink here included the people that owned the Heisey glass plant out on East Main Street over on Oakwood Avenue, Augustus Heisey and the people that made Heisey glass. They loved the picture of Tally-Ho, and they got permission to etch it in a piece of a line of classic glassware made in Newark called Tally-Ho. I inherited some Tally-Ho glass that my grandparents got when they were married. This is what the Tally-Ho pattern looked like in Heisey glass. Be very careful and pass that around. And you can see what the Tally-Ho pattern, these were the beautiful little glasses that came with it with the Tally-Ho. And that is the Tally-Ho that they sold all over the country. This is like the stopper and the drink mixer for that, for mixing drinks. And that is Heisey Glass sold these all over the country. It was the Tally-Ho pattern, and it's pretty neat, really. And those have been in my family. Those probably have not been unpacked for 40 years. I unpacked them for today to bring them down here and show them to you. I never had them around when you had kids around because you didn't want to get drink out of your Tally-Ho glassware.
What's the house represent? Do you know?
I don't. But that was based on the artwork in the Tally-Ho Bar in the Warden Hotel that's set on the site where we work today, and that's the history of this site. And I wanted to show you another piece of some glassware from Heisey. It was barware that I've also inherited. This was another pattern they had for wine, and that's a piece of a different pattern that they had. But this was also kind of barware. That's a shot glass and a regular tumbler that would have been in the Heisey patterns that were made by the Heisey Glass Company. And they actually used that kind of glassware here in the hotel. And it was part of the history of Newark. And so the Warden Hotel is part of the history of Newark. And this glassware that was made by people that were immigrants that came here and staffed the Heisey glass plant out on the east side of Newark, that's the kind of work that they did. And that's kind of the legacy of Newark. So sometimes we become so overwhelmed with intel and all the things that are coming, we kind of forget our past. And so I wanted to share that with you. And there are some pictures up on the walls of the historical Warden. And take a look when you go in that room in the window, because there's a picture that Crystal really liked. She found it online. Somebody got up on the courthouse and took a picture of the Warden. And you can see what downtown Newark looked like. You can even see over here where the Warden sat. Right beside it was the Evans Drugstore. You've all heard of the Thomas J. Evans Foundation. Well, Tommy Evans's drugstore was right beside here. And he's the guy that left some money to give Reese's dad, and they invested it pretty well. And that money now has been used to do thousands of good things through the Thomas J. Evans Foundation. But you can actually see the picture of Tommy Evans's drugstore beside the Warden Hotel that was sitting here. So there you go. I wanted to give you a themed luncheon today. So the theme is the history of this site and the glass, and a little look at some of the glassware that might have been used on this site, 100 years ago, 1887 to the 1950s before they closed it and tore it down. And now it's our county building, and we work here every day, and nobody ever thinks of the Warden Hotel anymore. There you go.
There you go.
That's it.